Hey guys, I'm dropping in because a few of you have been asking me questions about my clinical rotation as a travel nurse, and you wanted to know if it's doable, and I'm going to answer that question for you. So first, if this is your first video and you haven't seen the other ones, I just want to let you know that I'm Angel, the Psych NP, as well as I went to Walden. I graduated from Walden. I got my mental health nurse practitioner from there. One of the questions that I wanted to answer that one of you guys asked is it possible? It's totally possible to be a travel nurse as well as do your clinical rotations. I think it's the ideal situation because the time you make your own schedule as a travel nurse. You don't have to worry about working holidays. You don't have to worry about fighting for days off. You make your own schedule. So it's totally doable to do both. Like if you knew your clinicals were coming up, you could kind of grind hard during like 3 months before clinicals, and then you could take the whole next 3 months off to do clinicals and not even work because you'll make the money to do so, as separately from if you work staff somewhere and you have to do clinicals and your job. Because I don't know if you, depending on what type of nurse you are, you may work 8-hour shifts for 5 days, you may work 3 12s, or you may be doing a lot of overtime. Whatever the situation may be, I think that travel nurse is the ideal situation because you control your time and you don't hurt for money at the same time. Walden's program did not find clinicals for us, which was very, very frustrating. I set out of school 2 times on 2 different semesters. And I say 2 different semesters, like I got a clinical and then I was out for because I couldn't find the other one. So a lot of people in the groups and stuff, they like, when do you start finding your clinicals for school? I say now from experience, you need to start finding your clinicals as soon as you start school. You need to be setting that up because I thought I was doing that. I thought I was okay with that. But when the actual time came for clinicals, so many different things happened. One thing that was happening with me was, so Walden don't find your clinicals, but they are affiliated with certain hospitals. But the problem is that I believe, and this is my personal opinion, that they were bumping us out for, like, nurse practitioners out for psych residents, doctors who are actually going to be psychiatrists, because I went to a few places that were on that list, and a couple of them said that they'll have space, just come back. But then when I went back, they were like, oh, the psych, residents came and they took them over me, and I had already been there before, trying to secure that location. But I end up, like I said, sitting out. It was very frustrating. There are a bunch of groups on different social media outlets that discuss like getting clinicals at like Walden and other schools, and a lot of people end up paying people to be their preceptors because that's how difficult it had become. And I heard to the tune something, depending on where you were, was like $20 an hour. Like, people were desperate. People wanted to finish school and just not having, the school find it like in nursing school where it's already set up for you and you just show up, and do your clinicals. This was very different. I had to travel from LA to Atlanta to do my clinicals. Now, you may ask, how did that happen? And again, that kind of goes back to the freedom you have as a travel nurse. I didn't have to, be in 2 places at one time. I just knew that once I secured that location in Atlanta, I ended up working and just, saving my money because I knew I was going to take time off to go and do clinical. So that's what I ended up doing. It worked out well. I enjoyed my clinical experience in Atlanta at this psychiatrist's office. We did children, we did telemedicine, we did like everything. But if you're not a person that have the resources, or you're not in a situation where you can just kind of pick up and do, it was very difficult for me. The fact that I went cross country to do clinicals should say how tough it was for me. I was out in Cali. I could not find a clinical rotation in Cali. I could not. I did find my theory, like my therapy, because you have 2 classes that are like, therapy, and then 2 classes that are like, you have to be prescribing meds and stuff for clinicals. The two I had for therapy, even though I end up sitting out for one of those, it took me a long time to find that location and to find somebody to do that for me. It took a long time. And I did secure that one, and I did both rotations with that same person. But the one for like prescribing medication, it was rough. But what I would say is that the psych program has really, really picked up. A lot of actual FNPs, like my friends that are FNPs, they're actually going back to do psych. They're not even in the programs yet because everybody is just kind of out making the COVID money right now. But they're actually going back to psych, and they're looking for they're trying to secure their locations now before they even get into the program, because there's nothing like paying your money to go to these programs, and then you have dates of when you want to, when you're supposed to graduate, and you can't because you can't find clinical. It's discouraging. It makes you want to give up. Like, that's how bad it is. I'm actually still in some of those class groups on Facebook that I was in. I haven't removed myself from them groups, even though I finished school. And sometimes I just go peep in, or I still get the notifications. And like, COVID has made clinicals a nightmare for people. So anybody who's like anticipating going to school right now, my advice to you is just kind of really look into your clinical stuff before you get into a program, because those groups is really rough right now finding clinicals, because everything is like telemedicine. So you can't physically go to a place, and then like the psychiatrist or somebody that may precept you, they're doing telemedicine. So where do you go to meet up with them? Is COVID. So it's like really rough right now. Like, I think it's almost at a complete standstill to some extent, because unless you like living in a state with a person like that doesn't mind you coming in to their homes and you kind of doing clinicals like that, which is probably going to be almost like non-existent unless you really know someone. But that's the only thing that I could see happening. But in the groups, like, people are like, they're about to quit. They're just feeling like giving up. They've paid their money. They're at the point for clinicals. And now with COVID, they don't know when COVID's going to end. And the list just goes on and on and on of like all the things that are just against finding clinicals right now. And it just makes sense. Like, you may be able as an FNP to go in. I don't even know. Like, I don't know how they doing clinicals in the hospital right now, because it's really bad with COVID right now. So I don't think anybody kind of has time to have a student along with them. So I don't know. I'm speaking from the Psych MP program, and I just think that just based on what I'm seeing in different groups and people who I know who are anticipating going back to school, I don't know how they'll get their clinicals done right now in a time like this because of the telemedicine and just, the COVID. Like, you can't physically be in a place showing up right now to get your clinical hours. And without your clinical hours, you can't graduate. So you go into the program now, you spend a year in didactic, and the next year you might be on hold for a while until this is all sorted out. I don't know if anybody has heard anything different. You can drop it in the comments, because a few people have asked, but just based on what I'm seeing in the groups, clinical is almost non-existent right now for the Psych MP program, because everything is telemedicine. I'm not trying to discourage anyone from going to the psych program. I'm just saying, do your research before you start your program. Try to have your clinicals lined up. Try to see how things are being done now that COVID is here and everything is like telemedicine right now for psych. See what your options are before you even start the program right now, because I would hate for you to go into the program, get your didactic done, and then you can't start clinicals until this is over with. So now you out, you're thinking you're going to get from the bedside, you're thinking you're going to, elevate in your career, whatever, and then you're still stuck at the bedside or whatever it is that you're doing until further notice at this point. Now, the demand in the field is going up. So I do encourage you, if you truly are interested in psych and not just doing it because you're hearing about all the mental health and how they're going to start pouring money into it or whatever, if you truly interested in it, because it's not for the meek. This is not a field that you go into because you heard about the money, because you will be miserable. You will absolutely hate your job. But if that is not your case, I'm not trying to discourage you from doing the program. I'm just saying, look at everything that's happening around right now and see how it'll play in your life and what you're trying to do, because there right now is not, we're operating out of the norm as far as clinicals is concerned for psych, so I just wanted to drop in and say that to you guys. I hope that helps somebody who's looking into the program, who is already into the program. I hope that helps you. If you're in the program and you're not that far yet, start looking for your clinical now, because it is rough. It was rough pre-COVID, and I'm sure during COVID it's even worse based on things in the groups and stuff like I said before. So yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. Like, subscribe, turn on your notifications. Angel, the Psych MP. Ciao.